Okay, good morning, and thank you for joining this Use Excel Like an Expert for Get More Social. And thank you for joining me for this presentation. I'm Susan Barrett, and I've been a Microsoft trainer for nearly 30 years now, training from the beginning Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and obviously now that has grown massively to include all the Microsoft products. I train individuals and also companies. Primarily, I go into companies and I will train a team of people for a day or half a day or 2 half days, whatever the company requires. And I do an awful lot of Excel training. I also provide course development and technical authoring. So that could be for bespoke software or for bespoke Microsoft courses. And with that, I provide user handouts and so on. I also provide Microsoft 365 support for micro business owners. So primarily my customers are one-man bands, sole traders who don't have IT support, but would just like someone at the end of the phone to ask about queries are having with the Microsoft software. So that's me. So Shalene, would you mind just give me a little bit about yourself? Particularly, how long have you been using Excel? And do you consider yourself a beginner or are you looking for a refresh? That would be really handy.
Oh, so Excel, I think you can always learn more on Excel. I've always had a bit of a interesting relationship with it. I can do what I need to do. I can do like basic formulas. I use Excel a lot. I love to create spreadsheets. Um, but I think there's definitely more I could learn because I'm definitely not advanced. I wouldn't even say I'm intermediate. I wouldn't say I'm a
Okay.
beginner. I'd say somewhere between beginner and intermediate.
Okay, fantastic. All right, that gives me an idea. That's brilliant. All right, thank you. So, with that in mind, then, thinking about why you would want to use Excel, everybody tells you that you need to use Excel or it's going to help you, your business, and so on. But why would a business owner want to use Excel? So, first of all, of course, the most obvious one is it enables you to store data electronically. But also think of it as a multi-featured calculator. You can perform simple calculations such as 10 plus 50, or you can go really complex with functions, with formula using functions. It also has an excellent simple database functionality. So you can filter, you can sort, you can analyze data. And this also enables you to quickly find information that you want. And with all the excellent features as well to analyze your data, such as pivot tables, charts, and so on. Okay, so again, with that in mind, what am I going to cover on this presentation? First of all, I want to start off by looking at entering your data. So the title of this presentation was Using Excel Like an Expert. And if you're not entering your data in a way that Excel can understand, then you're going to have issues. So we're going to start off by talking about entering your data and also as well the data layout principles that then you need to follow. Once we've gone through all of that and you understand that, I can then demonstrate the features that then you can use once your data is entered in correctly. So for example, using functions, using flash fill, sorting and filtering, using pivot tables and charts as well. Okay, any questions on that, Shalene? Are you okay with all of that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds good.
Fantastic. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a refresh of the basics and just make sure that we actually, right from the very beginning, are entering our data incorrectly. So what I want to do is move to an Excel spreadsheet, which is blank. And I'll just zoom in a bit, just so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so let's say that I enter in data into a cell in Excel. As soon as I start entering data into a cell, I am in what's called edit mode. And you can see your formula bar here has now become active because you've got a tick and a cross. Also, at the bottom left-hand corner, you've got enter. So I know that I need to enter the data into the cell. And there are three ways to enter data into a cell. The first one is obviously to press enter on your keyboard, and that then takes you down to the next cell underneath, which is very handy if you are entering data down a column. So if we do pencils, rubbers, you can see that I'm just pressing enter as I go down a column. So it's nice and easy to do. However, if you're entering data across a row, so if I type in Feb here, you can also use your tab key to do the same thing. And that has the benefit that obviously it takes you across the row. So that is enter or tab to enter the data into the cell. I'm just going to press enter there. Another way to enter data into a cell, so if I put a number in here, is because we've got our formula bar is active, we've got an enter icon. So we've got the tick icon there. I can click on that, and that also enters that data into that cell. And the benefit of that way to enter data into a cell is you can see the active cell stays where it is. And that's really useful when you're entering in formula or you want to copy data or a formula down or cross. It stays where it is as the active cell. So just to carry on entering some data in, because I'm going across the row, I'm using the tab key, which obviously makes it nice and quick and easy to use. Just to bear in mind that text is left aligned in a cell and numbers are right aligned in a cell. So if you want to enter a number as text, so phone numbers, for example, if you put a phone number in, it's going to automatically remove that leading 0 because it sees it as a number. So what you can use is the
apostrophe
and then put the number in. And then Excel recognizes that as text. And you can see that if I make that column wider. Now, obviously, it's now highlighting the fact that that is a number stored as text, and you can choose to ignore that error because that's what you want. You want a number. You want a number stored as text. So just to recap, to enter data into a cell, you can press your enter key on your keyboard, you can press your tab key, or you can press the enter icon on the formula bar. And I would highly recommend you get into the habit of using those three methods. If you use any other method, you'll get yourself a mess when you start using formula and so on. Any questions on that, Shalene? Is that?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Okay, I'm just going to delete that column and just look at how we edit data in a cell. So for example, if I want to change Jan to January, there are three different ways that I can edit data in a cell. First one is to click in the formula bar and then I can start typing. And notice at the very bottom left-hand corner here, can you see it says edit? And if I hover over that, it tells me I'm in edit mode. And we know we're in edit mode because you can see that the formula bar has become active with a tick and a cross. So once I've made my change, I then obviously need to click on the tick, press enter or press tab, and it's totally up to you. Up to that point, you have not saved the changes into the cell. So I'm going to press enter. Okay, the other way of editing data in a cell is you can double click on it and you can see the cursor actually sits in the cell itself. And then again, I can press enter tab or click on the tick and that saves that in there. And then finally, the last way is to press F2. And again, that is another way to edit data in a cell. And you can choose either of those three options, whichever works for you. So just to recap that, you can either select the cell and click in the formula bar, you can double click on the cell, or you can press F2 on your keyboard and they will allow you to edit the cell. And then finally, of course, if you do accidentally type into a cell, which you didn't mean to do, or you've made changes that you don't want to save, until you press Enter, Tab, or Tick, you haven't actually saved that data in the cell. So you can cancel the edit. And of course, obviously, you probably guessed by now from the formula bar, you've got the cancel icon. So you can choose cancel, and that cancels that edit. Or if you prefer to use the keyboard, you can press the escape key on your keyboard, and that will cancel that edit. So just to recap, before you press Enter, Tab, or select the Enter icon, you can press Escape, or you can use the Cancel icon on the formula bar. Okay, the next thing to think about is how we enter in dates. Very much a big part of our data analysis in Excel is working with dates. So for example, invoice dates, when invoices are paid, is a classic example. So in order to be able to analyze our dates, it's very important that we enter them in correctly. And we do that using the / or the hyphen, as that example shows there. So let's put some dates into our Excel spreadsheet. So let's say that I've created an invoice on the 6th of July 25. And I press enter, and that's now stored as a date. And we can see that in the number group on our ribbon that Excel is recognizing that as a date. Or we can use the hyphen. Okay, and again, Excel recognizes that as a date, and it's totally up to you which you prefer to use. If you use any other method, if you use the dot, for example, then that date will be stored as text, and you won't be able to use all the excellent sort of data analysis features that come with using dates. Just to say, a keyboard shortcut, if you can't remember what today's date is and you want to enter that in, it's Control and semicolon. Control and semicolon. So just to recap that, to enter today's date, the shortcut is Control and semicolon. Fantastic. Any questions so far?
Yeah, the control and semicolon, is that for, I'm on a Mac, could that work on a Mac?
Does Command and semicolon work?
Oh yeah, that might work. It might be just a different one. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I can look that up for you if you want, Shalene, but
That's okay. I can look that up.
yeah, okay, good. Just to recap, obviously, we've learned now how to enter in our data, but how do we actually lay out that data to ensure that we can use all the facilities that I'm going to demonstrate to you? So we need to go through the principles of these. So the first step is that you need to give each column of data a column heading. This must be formatted as text, must use different character formatting to the data underneath. So obviously using bold is the classic one, and maybe centering the header. Each column heading must contain a unique entry, and this is called the header row. Also, you need to ensure that each column contains the same type of data, dates, text, and numbers. So if you have a mixture of, say, dates and numbers in a column, then you'll find it difficult to use some of the data analysis functionality. Also, each row represents one record. So all data must be in the same row. So often I find that people have set up a spreadsheet, but because it goes off sort of very far across the row, what they tend to do is they bring some of the data to the next row underneath. And then, of course, that messes up any sort of analysis that they want to do. And there are lots of features that will help you to use data that goes a long way across, you know, could be going to BZ, for example. Also, very importantly, remove blank rows and columns. Blank rows and columns are used by Excel to show where a table begins and ends. So if you have any blank rows or columns, then obviously Excel will only sort or filter or whatever you're trying to do up to that point. So if it's all part of the same data, then you need to make sure you have no blank rows and columns. However, if you do want two separate tables on the same worksheet, then you could use a blank row or a blank column to show that. Also, very importantly, remove leading or trailing spaces in cells. This tends to happen when you sort of download data from another application somewhere, and that often happens, and that will mess up formula and so on. So again, there are lots of features which will enable you to go through and remove them. And one of them is flash fill, which I'm going to demonstrate to you. Right, okay, so with that in mind, in good Blue Peter fashion, I have a spreadsheet already set up, ready to show you. Here we have my ready-made spreadsheet. Can you see that all right, Shalene?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so this is a dummy company which uses Excel to store its list of invoices that it's created. And this is for year 2023 to 2024. And we've got a spreadsheet called sales invoices. And you can see that it follows those data layout principles in that we have a header row, which has headings that are formatted as text, that have different formatting to the text underneath in that they are bold. Each one is a unique entry. Okay, so you'll notice that invoice number, invoice total, they've been made unique by specifying the extra information after it. So that's important as well. Also as well, each column contains the same type of data, and there are no blank rows or columns, very importantly. If we go to purchase invoices, same sort of principle, lots of data, but you can see that we've got a header row. Each column contains the same type of data, no blank rows and columns. And very importantly, each record is all on one row, and that's very important. Okay, any questions on that?
No.
Brilliant. Okay, so that means then I can then move on to demonstrate some of the features that then are available to you once your data is set out correctly. Also, I think another thing just to point out is you'll notice that this data is not flashy in any way. It is just pure data. And I think that's very important with Excel. I think sometimes we get carried away with colouring things or decorating our spreadsheets, which is just not necessary if you want to analyse your data. So the first thing, of course, is it now makes it very easy to create formula. So if I'm just going to work out the VAT on the net amount, for example, and again, when you create formula, you need to enter or use the enter tab or the tick, or the tab key, but I'm going to use the tick, the enter there, because what that means is now I can easily double click on the fill handle and I can just copy that down. And because there's no blank rows and columns, it will drop it all the way down to the bottom. And I can now work out my invoice total, enter that, and again, I can double click and that nice and easily copies that down. Also, it makes it easier when you start to use functions in Excel. Now, I'm obviously not going to go through every single function in Excel. If you go to the formulas bar, you will see there's a whole function library that you can look at and use. But what I'm just going to use just to demonstrate is the sum function, which is one most of us use on a fairly regular basis. And because it's one that's used regularly, there's a wizard to use the sum function, which is called auto sum. Now, because if I want to add up my net amount, my VAT and my invoice total, the quickest way to do that is using my auto sum. And again, because there's no blank rows and columns, we've got a header row and so on. I literally can click on the auto sum icon and it automatically will sum up to the top of my column. And then all I've got to do is press tab, enter or tick, and that is now done for me nice and quickly and easily. I'm just going to delete that for a moment because I also want to show you that because the way the data is laid out, I can literally select the 3 cells where I want to put my auto sum, my sum function, and I click on auto sum on the ribbon, and you can see that's done nice and quickly because I haven't had to mess around with that formula because there's no blank rows and columns and it knows where the header row is. Okay, so just in case you're new to the sum function, you can see here in the formula bar, the function is equal sum, and then in the brackets, you enter in what it is you want to sum up. Okay, obviously we can do the same with our purchase invoices. We could select those 3 cells and we could click on auto sum there to add those up. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove those, because if we're going to start sorting and filtering and so on our data, then we won't want those we won't want that total row there. So what you're better off doing is having something like a summary sheet, which actually gives you your, I just increase the size of that just so that you can see that, gives you the totals that you want. So just to quickly demonstrate, I can do equals sum, open bracket, I can go to my sales invoices and I can select the cells that I want to add in. I can press enter and that's now put that in there. If I want to work out my VAT, again, I can do equals sum, open bracket, go to my sales invoices and I can select and enter. And look, obviously I could do the same with purchases. And the benefit of that is I still obviously have the information I want, but I'm not messing up my data here. And it's very easy then to add extra rows underneath here as I go along, adding more invoices or purchase invoices throughout the year if necessary. Okay, any questions on that?
No, I like that last bit. I would often do something like that, but then just equals the sum cell rather than doing the whole thing. So that's interesting that you've done it that way. But like you said, you can continue then.
And then you can continue. Absolutely. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Right. Now I'm going to open up another spreadsheet to show you the flash fill feature, which I use pretty much regularly now. This is particularly useful when you're downloading data from other software, which I do quite regularly. And the data doesn't always come into the format that you want. And so you can use flash fill to set it up how you want it to appear. And the classic example I'm going to use here is where, let's say this data has been downloaded, but the names of the people in this staff list have been put together all in one column, which means, of course, we can't sort by surname now. We can only sort by first name. So what you can use is flash fill to separate these out. So let me just insert a couple of columns and let's do first name and last name, for example. And let's say I want Tracy, obviously here, and I want Sarah. And as soon as I start to type in the next word, Excel recognizes what I'm trying to do. It's saying I'm telling it I want all of the first words in that column on their own. And all I have to do now is just press enter, and that's now entered. Same again, last name, I could type in Andrews. And then as I start to type in the next word, I'm indicating to Excel I want the last word in that column on its own. I press enter and that's now done. Okay, and that's called flash fill. Now, if for any reason, if I just undo that for a moment, if for any reason Excel doesn't recognize what you're putting in, just put in the first two examples and go to the flash fill icon, go to the fill icon on your ribbon and choose flash fill there, and then it should, that will then work. So if the automatic version doesn't work, you can use that version. Okay, and as I say, I use that on a fairly regular basis. Now, of course, what you could then do is get rid of column A. If you don't need that anymore, for example, you could delete that column and you've now got the data that in the format that you want it. So that now means it's very easy for us to sort by surname, for example. Now, sorting is very reliant on you entering your data using the data layout principles that I've just been through. Very important. Because you've got a header row, which Excel will recognize, and you haven't got any blank rows, you haven't got any auto sum at the bottom or anything funny in there. Okay, you've just got the pure data. So I can now literally go to the sort and filter icon on the ribbon, and I can sort A to Z, for example. Okay, if I wanted to sort by the join date, all I've got to do is click in that column. I can do sort and filter, and it recognizes that you've got dates in there. So you can do, say, newest to oldest or oldest to newest. If I go into the number of years service and sort and filter, and again, it recognizes that there are numbers in there, and it will sort smallest to largest or largest to smallest. And that's literally just by clicking in the relevant column. It will recognize that. Obviously, if for any reason it doesn't recognize your row header, then of course you would need to select the whole table, but you shouldn't need to if the data has been entered incorrectly. Right, so let's go back then to our accounts, and same principle, obviously, it's because the data has been entered incorrectly, following those layouts principles, I can click in any of these columns and I can go to sort and filter, and I could sort A to Z, for example. I could sort by date, and so on. Also, I can sort by multiple columns. So let's say that I want to sort by customer. So I can do sort and filter and custom sort. And let's say I want to sort by customer, A to Z, but then I want to sort by net amount. And I want to do, say, largest to smallest. I can add in as many levels as I want. Notice that my data has a header. Notice that my spreadsheet has been highlighted here, but not the header row, because you don't want to include the header row in the sort. And you choose OK, and that's now sorted by customer and by the net amount. Okay, any questions on that?
So what has it just done? It's sorted by both. So what has it prioritized?
So it's sorted by customer first. So you can see they're now in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
And then, for example, if you take Wells Datacomms, you can see that the net amount has been sorted largest to smallest.
So it's by customer, it's right. So if it's just one entry, like the top one's only one for carry virtual, so it wouldn't need to do anything for that one. If there's
exactly,
yeah,
it hasn't got anything else in there yet.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Okay, so that's just a little bit about sorting and how that now works because we've used the data layout principles. The same applies when you're filtering. What we'll do this in purchase invoices because we've got a lot more data here, is if we wanted to find out all the invoices that we have received from a particular supplier, for example, we can go to the data tab and we can turn on the filter icon. and then you get the filter icon appearing automatically at the bottom right-hand corner of each column heading. So again, that's another reason why you need a header row. So for example, we might want to find all invoices for Markwell, for example. And if I click OK, and now it just pulls out those invoices for Markwell. I could copy those somewhere else if I wanted to analyze that further, but it could be I'm just looking for an invoice and just to see if it's been paid, for example. To clear that, I can choose the clear icon on the ribbon, and that takes us back where we are. If I wanted to, for example, with net amount, I can filter by the particular number if I wanted to, but what you'll most likely want to do is to maybe look for values greater than or less than or between them. So I'm going to do greater than. I want to look for all invoices that are greater than £500, for example. I can choose OK, and I've found all of my big invoices there. Okay, again, I could use the clear icon, or I can go to the actual filter icon here, and I can choose clear from net amount, and we're back where we were. That's useful if you've got multiple filters across. Okay. What is also useful is you'll notice at the bottom here that we've got some invoices that have not been paid. So if you've got a very, very long list, what you can do is you can go to, say, the relevant column, and can you see you've got an option to search for just the blanks. So then you can see what invoices you still need to pay as an example. Okay, so that's just a quick demonstration of filtering, but very reliant on ensuring your data is entered in correctly. And then when you've finished filtering, you can turn off the filter and then you're back with your data, or you can leave it on. It's totally up to you. Okay, back to sales invoices. What I just want to finish off with is showing you pivot tables, which are a brilliant way of summarizing your data. And again, very reliant on ensuring that your data is entered in correctly. But the sort of things you can do with pivot tables is we could see how much have we spent with each, how much has each customer spent with us? How much have we earned from each customer? How much we earned within each month? That type of information. Okay. So to do that, obviously click somewhere in your data, go to the Insert tab in your ribbon, and you can see there you've got a pivot table icon. You can click on that, and you can have the pivot table in your existing worksheet if you find that easier, but I'm going to do new worksheet. I find that easier to explain when training pivot tables. And obviously just make sure that it has got the highlighted the correct range. It should do, again, if your data is entered incorrectly, but if not, you'll need to select it at that point. Choose OK. And now it's starting the pivot table for you. And over on the right-hand side, you can see your column headings have become fields in the pivot table. So what I want Excel to do is find all the unique entries within the customer column. And there we've got a complete list of all our customers. This is also quite handy because it will also find typos that you might put in, because obviously it will be a different entry. Okay. And then let's say I want to find out how much I have earned from each customer. Let's choose net amount. And there you can see how many clicks was that? 3 or 4 clicks. We've analysed that information straight away without messing up the original data. This is in a completely different spreadsheet. You can see here I've got sheet 1, and I'm now showing how much I've earned through each customer. Okay. Any questions on that?
No, that was a good reminder, because I used to use pivot tables all the time when I was employed, and now I don't use them anymore. I don't need to use them. I completely forgot about them. So that was a really good reminder. Oh yeah, pivot tables. So you've reminded me not only that they exist, but how to use them. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. All right. Okay, just obviously you can play with that as much as you like. If I just go to purchase invoices, I'll just do a pivot table there as well. So if we do insert pivot table, it should automatically select your table, new worksheet, and OK. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to put in the date and net amount. I want to find out how much I've spent each month, for example. So by default, you can see that Excel will put in the years. So this is from 2023 to 2024. And it will also give you your quarter spend if that's useful to you, as an example. And let's say that you don't want that. What you can do is you can remove that field, and then you've got your monthly spend, which I think is the useful bit. But well, would be for me anyway. And again, I mean, that was sort of 3 or 4 clicks, and we've now got an idea of how much we've spent each month, which can be really useful. Okay, just to say that you can also show this information in a pivot chart as well. So if you, again, go to insert, and you'll see in the middle there, you've got something called pivot chart. Same principle, make sure it's selected the same range, new worksheet, and you can then, for example, put in your customer and net amount. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to what I want to change chart type. I'm going to change that to a pie chart. That's better. Okay. Obviously, Wells Datacoms is obviously the biggest customer in this example, but the pie chart is really good for actually highlighting that. And that's again all done with a pivot table or a pivot chart. Same principle. Fantastic. Any questions about that?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, well, thank you very much for attending this demonstration of Excel features and using Excel like an expert. Just to finish off, just to say that I offer Microsoft 365 support and training. I'll be on hand to support you with your software when you need me. You can also use that time to update your skills with online training courses. And I've got monthly packages that are available if you were interested. In the meantime, you might like to sign up to my newsletter for top tips on using Microsoft 365 features, and my July version is about to be going out soon. You also get up-to-date news on what's new in Microsoft 365 and Windows 11, and obviously eventually Windows 12. Course of the month suggestions, and also anything sort of new within First Call. And to do that, you can go to my website /subscribe. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you. That was brilliant.
Let me stop the share and we can chat properly. Good. Well, thank you, Shalene, for coming. It's brilliant.
That was really good.
Was that useful?
Yeah, I've done a couple of things, so that was good. I don't think
Fantastic.
you ever know everything, and I think there's always more to know, especially with Excel for me. So I
Especially with
thought,
Excel.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of it I knew, but a lot of it, there was little things I picked up. And for me, even those little bits, it was like, that's useful, you know? So
Yeah.
it's good to learn more. I
Fantastic.
like the refresher on the more advanced stuff like the pivot tables. I'm like, oh
Mm,
yeah, I can do that. It's got me ideas of more stuff actually that I want to do in terms of ongoing data analysis. So
brilliant.
yeah, and the things that I'm doing already, and I'm thinking, well, I might set them up differently or just tweak them a little bit so that it's easy to pull the data and analyze.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic.
Mm.
In what you do, you must need that analysis constantly all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like now more so because I've got the digital products that I'm doing, I want to definitely be sort of analysing more the sales and the success of each one. So
Yeah,
expands, I want to do that early rather than once I can't control it, you know.
yeah, quite. Yeah,
So yeah.
excellent.
Very much.
Brilliant.
It's really
Thank
good.
you very much.
Okay. Are you doing next week's as well?
No, it's the week after.
Week after. Okay.
Yes.
There's nothing on next week, is there?
No,
Yeah,
not as
that was
far
it.
as I'm aware. There's nothing on next week. No.
Okay.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully see you in a couple of weeks' time with any luck.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. What are you doing on that one?
So that's looking at sort of security features, just reminders of things you need to think about, all the things we know we have to do, but you just kind of need a reminder, really.
For now. Yes. If I can make it, I will be there.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks again. Take
Good
care.
day. Bye.
Bye bye.